Once upon a time, in a land before COVID, there was this moment when my friends and I decided to celebrate Halloween, which might not be that exciting for you, but for me, who grew up in the 90s where Halloween was not a thing in Germany, it was exciting. In the spring of that year, I was in the mood of sewing, so I already made my costume. Let me show you. Let me introduce you to Gabe. I just decided he now is called Gabriel. You come away, go away. You as well. Out of shot, out of shot. Out of sight, out of mind. So, I made a dress. And you know, because I'm quite chubby, it will not fit in exactly, but you get an idea. For the first time in my life, being chubby is something good, because that leads to me filling out this dress and looking more like a doll. Like one of these slightly chubbier dolls that you had. Those porcelain dolls. So, this is the dress. Then, this is the bonnet. Isn't he charming? Isn't it pretty? So, this year, I am joining a friend of a friend in bringing a Halloween house to life. And because I already had this, it was a no-brainer to make a Halloween doll, or a creepy doll, because, let's face it, what else should I do? Somewhere I have white stockings. I don't know where I have to look for them. And I already bought... Where are they? I have no idea. I bought ballet slippers. And all of those will be dyed with coffee, and then I will try to add some more aging to them with, first of all, sanding them a bit down, making them a bit rough, and then some acrylic paint. Problem 1. This can be dyed because it's only fabric. This can't be dyed because it's cardboard inside. So I guess I will have to make this one only with paint. But I do want to dye the dress and the stockings and the shoes with grounded coffee. So, for that I first need to boil a bucket of coffee to drown everything in and then let it soak for some time. Then I need to dry it, and as soon as we are at that point, we will meet again here on him to decide how much of acrylic paint is needed to make everything look nice together. My initial plan for this was that I just, paint a doll face on my chubby face. But I decided, because it will be much creepier, I will make a mask. So, yeah, that is the plan for today. Let's see how far we go. And yes, all the rest of it is just voice over me, because I tried to record some audio but failed miserably, and because it was a mess, I just decided to do voiceover now. So, first we have my face out of plaster. And at this point I already decided I wanted to have inset eyes, and to have a placeholder for them I used these capsules from the Capsule Chicks, and I tried to cut that to size, and that was quite a disaster. It took ages. I tried to use an X-Acto knife, I tried to use a heated up X-Acto knife, I tried to use a saw. Nothing really worked. In the end, I took out my Dremel, put on a drill, drilled holes around it, and then cut the in-between parts that were left with the cutter. I think cutting this one capsule top to a manageable size took 20 minutes or so, or even longer. I was dripping in sweat afterwards. And I was so annoyed. Gosh damn it, I just wanted to have a replacement or placeholder for the acrylic half balls that were on its way at this point. On their way in this point, at this point. You know what I mean. So, anyway, after I was finally through the plastic, I then took out the clay that I have laying around that might need a replacement soon, because I have it for roughly 10 years now and it starts to get not pretty. Yeah, but first I slapped down a base layer of clay onto my face and put the eyes in place so that the half spheres will be on top of my eyes later, and started slightly sculpting already. I put down the lips and everything just so that every area is close to the area where it will or is sitting on my face, because at this point I still thought I want to cut the mouth like a ventriloquist stall. So then when I run after the little children and call out to them like "Mommy" or something like that, that it will look more creepy when my jaw is moving. But I think without any movement it's even creepier, so I decided against that in the end. I already knew that I wanted the right side where the eyeball replacement is sticking out quite far to be replaced by more or less a crack or missing pieces out of the porcelain doll's face. But I wanted the eyeball to still be there, hanging in with the last bits of porcelain holding it in place. I did decide against that later because I made a whoopsie and melted the acrylic sphere, but that is beside the point. I think it looked better looks better without the eyeball hanging in there. And second of all, I have now more place to see something. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We are still at the sculpting phase. So, yeah. I tried to sculpt a face that is one side cute baby doll, other side as creepy as possible. Yay. With the sculpting being done, which took less time than cutting this frickin' capsule, I then took out some aluminium foil and tried to cover the clay as close as possible, or as detailed as possible. By making masks in this technique, a lot of details will be lost, but I wanted at least the option to have as much of that shown as possible. So that is why I went in there quite detailed. And then began the tedious work of getting out the paper. And I have a paper that is one-sided, or has glue on one side that is activated as soon as it comes in touch with water. Which means I try to tear the pieces as small as I am willing to tear them in the moment I'm doing that, and then stick them on there. To have a sturdy mask, you should at least do 6 layers, and because otherwise you could get quite confused, I do a layer of paint whenever I have 1 layer done. Yeah, that took quite some time, because let's face it, 6 layers are quite a lot. When these 6 layers were decently dry, I mixed up some epoxy clay and resculpted some details that either I didn't really notice in the first sculpting process or got lost in the covering up. The lower lip, for example, was not very full, which I didn't see in the sculpting process, and the cracks weren't very sharp, so I tried to get those details back a little bit better with some epoxy clay at this point. To even out any lumps and bumps, I mixed up a mixture out of kaolin clay, glue and water. And yeah, just put some layers on there. The nice thing is you can sand this in between. And if you are a more patient person than I am, you can get this to a completely smooth finish. But because I can't be bothered, I gave up halfway through. If I would have done this accurate or patiently, I could have had a very smooth porcelain-like finish in the end, which was the finish I wanted to achieve, but sanding and me, we are not that very good friends, so again I chickened out of it and just left it a little bit more rough. Instead of doing the smart thing and waiting for, don't know, a week or something like that, I removed the plaster cast and the clay from the inside of the mask and decided, it's still quite wet in the center. The right moment to cut out everything. If you don't notice that by my slightly ironic way to say that, not a great idea. The moment to cut out the eye region and everything is not when it's still wet. It should be dry. But as I said, I'm impatient, so I decided to cut that out. Yeah, the layers of paper weren't fully combined at that point, so it was a mess. It was ugly, but at that point I had started, so I finished. Did it hurt the final result? Not really. Did it make my life a lot more complicated? Yeah. So, if you are ever going to do something like that, let me tell you, patience is very great, if you have it. If you don't have it, you can get away with it. It was great luck then that at this point I had to go to my mom for a week to help her. So at this point the mask had plenty time to dry. And when I returned, I did cut open the rest of it and put a last layer of the kaolin glue water mixture down and was able to go on with the ice that finally had arrived. I bought 2 different spheres. The one was 5 centimeters in diameter. The second one was 6. I went with the one that was 6 centimeters. And I just cut out circles from washi tape, glued them in the center, and then sprayed some white plastic base primer in there to have the white of the eyes. I tried to do some effects with using a bit of red before, but that didn't do anything. So I'm not going to talk about that a lot. But using the white primer was a great idea. So after that was dry, I just had to remove the washi tape that I glued in there, and the eyes looked quite nice, I have to say. To not have them poking me all of the time, I obviously took out the Dremel, cut them to size so they fit quite snug into the mask, sanded them down, and then I sprayed them. Now for some unnecessary details that no one will see, especially not in the dark. Around the sculpted crack I put down some black because my goal was to use a medium that makes the paint layer you put on top of it crack. So it looks a bit more, like broken down paint and like a varnish that is old and broken and cracked. And I put down skin color afterwards and hoped for the best, but it did not do that much. You see a little bit of the black poking through, but let's be real, when I did the wash in the end, that completely disappeared. So you do see some cracks, but only when you are very close. And call me a pessimist, but I don't think that there will be that many kids that will come close enough to see the cracking of the paint. Then it was time to accessorize. First I took out the washi tape out of the eyes because I wanted to glue them in at this point as well. And I took out some hair that I had laying around. I ordered that in black, but you can tell me what you think. Is it black? Doesn't matter. I used that for her ponytails and her bangs. My ponytails and my bangs, I should say, because I am the one wearing this. Or at the point you will see that I was the one wearing this. But I gave myself a nice chunk of hair here and styled it in a traditional doll looking manner as I thought would be right, would be fitting, would be how most dolls are.
Most of the old dolls, I think, have very straight full bangs and then either two pigtails or ringlets. And I couldn't be bothered with ringlets, so I just braided the rest of the hair and glued it to the sides of the mask. With a bit of last details like drawing on lashes and then gluing on lashes and gluing on the hat piece. How are they called? I just had the name in my head. I forgot it. Bonnet. The bonnet. Gluing on the bonnet. With that, the base of it was done. And we could go on to make it look a little bit more old. I then prepared a nice bucket of coffee and tea mixed with all the clothing items that were for my costume and a doll dress for the demonic doll that my friend bought for her part. With 3 beautiful faces like this, you can't tell me that this little critter is not possessed. Then I put a bucket full of washes and straight up paint that I watered down on the cloth and everything onto the cap and the face, just to alter that as well. Yeah, and when that was dry, the dress was dry as well, I could do some last tweaks here and there by cutting into the garment and into the cap and roughing everything up with a pat brush and some sandpaper and yeah, just make everything look neglected, worn down, old and disgusting. Yeah. And then it was time for me to put my beautiful costume on, get my brother to take some pictures of me, and now it is time for me to show them to you. So, I hope you will enjoy. And yes, here, this is the moment where I melted her eye. But in the end, I think it looks better without the second one. First of all, I'm not a model. Second of all, if I have footage of the Halloween house itself, if you want to see it, I might post it here. Sometime in November. I hope you did enjoy this, and we will see us in another video. Until then, bye.